Today, as I continue this top 10 list of insurance hacks and tips that will improve your policy and decrease your cost, the most important one might be here this week, the one that might save you the most. Good morning, everybody. It is your accident and injury guy, Jobeth Bowers, coming at you to continue the top 10 lists that I have suggestions for you of how to get better insurance here in Maryland on your auto policy, as well as save you some money. We have gone through tips 10 down through 5, and we're going to do 2 of them today. I know I've been doing 3, but hey, do the math. If I do 3 today, I can only do 1 next week. And quite frankly, I'd rather do 2 and 2. Plus, I got a really juicy one for you here. Number 4 is super important. And I would be willing to bet that more than half of the people watching this are not taking advantage of this. Even though we see commercials on TV and streaming platforms and otherwise all the time about this, bundle policies with one company. It's not just some sales gimmick to get you in. You're going to save sometimes over 10% globally across all your policies by doing this. This is your auto insurance policy. If you have multiple vehicles, make sure they're all on one policy. Don't have different insurance companies for different vehicles unless one of those vehicles is a specialty vehicle and your company doesn't service it. Specialty vehicles, sometimes motorcycles, RVs, other sort of sport equipment or toys. There are certain companies that are much, much better with their rates on classic cars or cars that you might take to the drag race that also, sometimes they have an off-road component, usually not, but different companies for those specialty vehicles. But there are also some insurance companies that will give you good general coverage as well as the specialty vehicles. It's all case by case, though. Some companies that do a lot are better with some specialty vehicles than others. There is a tip next week, number 2, that's going to be super important, but I'm going to tease that now. So you have to come back next week. So you got all those auto and vehicle policies, your homeowner's policy if you own the home. And a lot of people, this is where things get unbundled, because if you have a mortgage, sometimes that homeowner's policy goes on autopilot because it's getting paid out of your escrow. So you might change your auto policy and forget about the homeowner's insurance policy. And it might feel like it's a daunting task of changing it, but it's not. All of that stuff happens behind the scenes. If you were to go to X insurance company and say, take my autos, take my home, here's all the details, they're going to sort all that out. You don't have to write checks. It's going to go back into your mortgage. It's just going to get paid to that company, the new company, instead of the old one. And it's going to save you money. If you are a renter, and it's been a while since I've talked about this, but for the most part, renter's insurance is free with an asterisk. And in some cases, you get paid to take renter's insurance with an asterisk. Here's what I mean. The cost of a renter's insurance policy is usually so cheap that if you're getting it from the same company that insures your vehicles, the discount you get on the auto policy is usually the same or more money than what the renter's policy cost you. Which means, do the math, that renter's policy should be free or possibly even pay you to take it. If you don't believe me, call your agent and ask. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. Some of these companies, and this is why it's so important, I will beat this drum, this dead horse, whatever you want to call it, until the end of days, have a live in-person agent. It seems counterproductive as things are getting more and more digital and more fast-paced. But it's that insurance agent that's going to say, and you can have a conversation with that says, if you throw a third policy in here, let's say a life insurance policy, some of which can be very, very inexpensive, you might get an even bigger discount for now having 3 types of insurance with the same company, which means sometimes those policies are free or close to free because you're going to get the discounts across the board. Your renter's policy or your homeowner's policy is going to be cheaper. Your auto policy is going to be less expensive. You're going to save money across the board. This is a big one. This is a juicy one. There's coverage that you might not have that you can get for next to nothing or maybe even get paid to have. So please look into it and don't hesitate to reach out. Contact me to talk about it because I do those free insurance reviews, which brings us to number 3. Understand the coverage types. This is a great reason for you to contact me to do one of these free insurance reviews because I'm not just going to look at it and be like, oh, you need to do this and do that. I'm going to explain to you what this insurance policy does in the scenarios that you might need to use it. A lot of insurance companies, especially if you're buying online, don't buy online, don't buy from the 1-800 number. You're never going to have any of this explained to you online or on the 800 number. And depending on who the local agent is, you may or may not get that explanation there. But here, for zero cost, I will explain to you what it is. Here's where I'm also going to throw in, look at increasing some of your coverage types, your liability limits, your uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage limits. With some of these companies having increased limits, asking for increased limits, tells the underwriter, tells the insurance company that, hey, this person is looking to protect themselves. If they are looking to protect themselves, if they know enough to ask for better coverage, they are likely to be less of a risk. You can take a policy that's a minimum policy or a small policy, let's say a $50,000 policy, and take it to a $250,000 policy, 5 times the coverage. Most companies will not be twice the price. You're going to get 5 times, and it's not going to cost you double. It's probably not going to cost you anywhere near double. In reality, it might be a 30% increase. And if you're doing that at the same time, shopping companies, I have seen clients of mine switch companies, go from a $50,000 policy to a $250,000 policy, increase other limits, and save money. Yes, less money, 5 times the coverage. It's possible. I may have even done a podcast episode on it a few years back because it happens. And when these situations occur, I get permission from my clients to talk about it, even though I don't name their names. And then I do a podcast episode on it. So as you can see, I only did 2 this week because they're a little bit bigger, a little bit juicier, a little bit better for you. Next week, I've got the last 2, number 2 and number 1. As always, if you have a question, we're getting near the end of the month. So if you have something that you want me to talk about on the podcast, info@bowerslawmd.com. It'll probably come up soon on an episode. And as always, if you want to go back and check some of that other stuff, some of these topics I go into much more detail with in individual episodes, go to bowerslawmd.com, go up into that gold bar, see where it says podcast. Click that link and it's going to get you back to all of the back episodes of the podcast. You can see my silly face and talking about this important stuff. As always, if you have questions about it, if you need help with an accident, give my office a call. That is what we're here for. That's all I got for you this week. We're coming back with number 2 and number 1 on my top 10 list of insurance hacks to increase and improve your policy and save you some money.